Hello, everybody. David Shuster here. Democratic Congressman Robert Garcia of California just hammered members of Donald Trump's cabinet. Garcia accused them of doing the same thing as Trump.
All they do is they look at the TV and they lie. And I think people know across here and across the country that the National Guard and the military shouldn't be sent into cities. What cities want is support.
In that discussion on MSNBC about Trump's deployment of the National Guard, Garcia was shown a clip of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. Noem appeared earlier in the day on CBS News and made a wild claim about the health and safety of the city of Los Angeles.
I won't speak to the specifics of the operations that are planned in other cities, but I do know that LA wouldn't be standing today if President Trump hadn't taken action. Then that city would have burned down if left to the devices of the mayor and the governor of that state.
Your reaction, I see you smirking there.
I mean, it's hard not to. I mean, is that a joke? Just completely outrageous and out of touch. I mean, obviously, Los Angeles, besides having seen decreases over the last 10, 20, 30 years overall in crime, the fact that LA wouldn't have been standing had Donald Trump not intervened is a fabrication.
It's a fabrication, said Garcia. And that fabrication has been coming from several Trump administration officials. The president himself has claimed that Los Angeles wouldn't exist had it not been for Trump's deployment of federal troops. Trump has also claimed even more frequently that LA would have burned to the ground earlier this year had Trump not gotten involved in firefighting efforts. That's also nonsense, but perhaps Kristi Noem got confused about which Trump absurdity she was supposed to echo on television. And to be fair, Donald Trump's whoppers are so frequent and ridiculous that it is difficult to keep track of all of them. But regarding Noem's absurd talking point about deploying federal troops, Congressman Garcia pointed out that everybody agrees criminals should not be on the streets or even in the United States. But Garcia pointed out that violent criminals have not been the Trump deportation raids' focus.
At this moment right now, when these ICE raids are happening across cities across the country, everyone agrees that, yes, we don't want, of course, criminals. If you're here and you're a criminal, you shouldn't be in this country. We understand that. But that's not what's happening. Most of the people being right now detained or abducted don't have criminal histories. They are people that are working at our car washes, at our restaurants, at our hotels. These are hardworking people, and what's happening right now is shameful.
According to the Trump administration's own data, less than 10% of the people arrested and deported have ever been charged with a violent crime. In other words, for 90% of those targeted, the only thing on their record is that they either crossed the border illegally or they are trying to get citizenship after claiming asylum. And a huge portion of these people being targeted for deportation are women and children. Still, ICE agents are conducting raids and arrests as if the targets were heavily armed violent insurrectionists. And there are countless reports and videos of ICE agents targeting schools, hospitals, landscaping businesses, construction sites, and even a raging wildfire in Washington state. Recently, ICE agents stopped a contract firefighting crew for 3 hours to check their identifications. The crew was battling a fire raging out of control when they were pulled away from the fire line, ordered to stand quietly and talk with ICE agents.
We got hit. They came up on us hard, too.
The Bear Gulch fire a mile from here has burned over 9,000 acres and remains out of control. It is so big, the state has had to rely on contract fire crews. 20 of the workers are Mexican and have work permits and visas. Still, as ABC News reports, Border Patrol arrests 2 firefighters battling Bear Gulch fire in Washington. Local residents were infuriated by that ICE raid and said it literally increased the risk to their community. Because for several hours, the raid caused the fire line to be understaffed. And yet just days later, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem went on TV and said it's the Trump administration that is protecting communities through ICE raids and through the deployment of federal troops. Remarkable. The fact is, in nearly every U.S. city in America, crime dropped to record lows at the end of the Biden administration, and the numbers have not gone back up. Still, the Trump team is desperate to justify the deployment of heavily armed military troops. So Trump, Kristi Noem, and others are lying about crime and mayhem in order to frighten the public and justify the troop deployments. One imagines the Trump team is hoping that instead of the peaceful protests, demonstrators will engage in violence and maybe open fire on the federal troops, so the Trump administration can then point to the clash and take things even further by declaring martial law. That's where all of this seems headed. In the meantime, Democrats are speaking out more loudly than ever, and kudos particularly to Congressman Robert Garcia of California. He has been one of the most blunt and outspoken Trump administration critics. Garcia is also thoughtful, passionate, and tells the truth. In other words, he may be vulnerable to administration crackdowns if dissent becomes as intolerable to Trump as honesty. By the way, Donald Trump's director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, is making her title more ironic by the day. Gabbard recently outed a covert CIA agent.
As Gabbard is revoking security clearance from 37 current and former intelligence officials, accusing them of aiding and abetting a seditious conspiracy.
Check out that video at the link below. I'm David Shuster. Thanks for joining us.